Basically, after the world wars, the economy of every country tumbled down. Okay, that led to the consciousness that this is going to be a suffering. అందుకే ఆపేశారు అవన్నీ. సో హ్యూమన్ ఎకానమీ అనేది ఎవ్రీ కంట్రీ, ఏది జాయిన్ చేసిన కంట్రీ కానీ ది allies కానీ ఈవెన్ ఎవ్రీ వన్ సఫర్డ్ లాసెస్ అన్నమాట.
Gautam, can you repeat that please? What you said before? Kind of little.
సెకండ్ వరల్డ్ వార్ తర్వాత వినిపిస్తుందా చిన్న?
Yeah.
సెకండ్ వరల్డ్ వార్ తర్వాత ద ఎకానమీ ఆఫ్ ఎవ్రీ కంట్రీ కేమ్ క్రాషింగ్ డౌన్. సో ద హోల్ ఇంత ముందు ఏదైతే మిలిటరీ అండ్ డిక్టేటర్షిప్స్ ఉన్నారో దే సడన్లీ వెంట్ ఇన్ టు ఇదనమాట సెల్ఫ్ ఇంట్రోస్పెక్షన్. సో దిస్ ఇస్ నాట్ గోయింగ్ టు కాజ్ ఎనీ, దీనివల్ల వచ్చే ఒదిగేది పెరిగేది ఏం లేదు. ఎందుకంటే జనాల దగ్గర డబ్బులు ఉంటాయి కానీ మన దగ్గర ఉండవు డబ్బులు, డిక్టేటర్షిప్. అందుకే అదే టైంలో దే వాజ్ అన్ ఓవర్ టర్నింగ్ ఆఫ్ డిక్టేటర్షిప్ టు డెమోక్రసీస్ అన్నమాట. అంటే ద రైజ్ ఆఫ్ ద థర్డ్ క్లాస్. సో అందుకే ఆ తర్వాత పడిపోయింది.
ఆటమ్ బాంబ్ వేశారు దేని మీద, జపాన్ మీద. ఓకే, కంప్లీట్లీ డిస్ట్రాయ్ లైక్ ఏ ఫినిక్స్ ఇట్ కేమ్.
అదే దట్ వాస్ అ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద సెకండ్ వరల్డ్ వార్. దాని తర్వాతే దే థాట్ వార్స్ ఆర్ నాట్ గోయింగ్ టు సర్వ్ ఎనీ పర్పస్. ఇట్స్ బేసికలీ ఎన్ ఎకనామికల్ థింగ్. హ్యూజ్. ఎందుకంటే మనం ఎవ్రీ కంట్రీ, ఇప్పుడు సపోజ్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇండియాకి వచ్చింది. ఇండియా బ్రిటిష్ ఆక్యుపై చేసింది. ఇండియా ఇస్ టు ఈస్ట్ ఇండియా కంపెనీ. ఈస్ట్ ఇండియా కంపెనీ ఏంటి? కామర్స్ పీపుల్. కామర్స్ అంటే బిజినెస్ పీపుల్. ఆ బిజినెస్ పీపులే దే ఆర్ మెర్సనరీస్ బేసికలీ. వాళ్ళని తీసుకొచ్చారు. సో ఎవ్రీథింగ్ వాస్ డ్రివెన్ బై ఎకానమీ అనమాట యాజ్ అ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్.
Can I add one thing there, Gautam? I think economic principles are definitely there. I think there's a realization that there was a lot of suffering. Economic suffering is a big part of it.
King doesn't care about the suffering of this one unless he is also affected, Kiran.
Correct. No, I agree with that.
You talk from Baba's angle. What Baba says.
Baba అంటారు సెకండ్ వరల్డ్ వార్ ఎందుకు అవుద్ది? అది మరి ఏం మరి నాకు
బాబా చెప్పారు నాన్న.
Again, wait. Okay, let the moderator intervene, because again it is going to go into somebody believing something and somebody not believing. Each of us can continue with our beliefs and non-beliefs. Okay, but let's at least stick to the topic, because I feel somewhere what Amma was saying, Kiran is saying, and Gautam is saying, there is a similarity. Gautam is also saying post the war, whether the emperor or the dictators or the kings, through that suffering, there was an elevation of consciousness, one way or the other. All right. And they saw the futility of war and all this suffering, because everybody stood to lose, is what you're saying, Gautam. Everybody, whether whoever won the war or whoever lost the war, they all stood to lose at the end of it. And they saw that futility, is what you seem to be saying. And that probably led to a overall, sort of an elevation of consciousness. Okay. Gautam, is that fair?
One point I want to say here. Okay. When suffering is more, we turn to God. There's Baba. From the Baba's angle, we are talking. Okay. When suffering is in its height, all of us will turn towards God.
That is because of
important hope. Point.
Hope కోసం కదా. We need a person for a hope. Hope కోసం ఒక ఎవరొకరి వైపు తిరుగుతాం మనం.
But he will hold the situation. Baba is as God, we are talking. Okay. Baba himself, under his supervision, it happened. This Second World War. Direct ga chepparu. Lord Mayor lo anitlo undi. Okay. And the First World War, under the 56 perfect masters will be running the whole universe. And out of 56, 5 perfect masters will be the top authorities who are enforcing whatever already Avatar planned. Okay. So ఇది మనకి సటిల్ గా అవుతుంది. Where is the proof? అంటే we can't show the proof. Prime Minister Modi, we can see it giving a talk. We can't give the Shirdi Sai Baba is the leader of out of 5 who was running the whole universe during that time. Okay. ఆయన చూపించమంటే we can't prove that he was ruling the whole universe. And that is our faith. Because Baba said all this, we believe in his words. Okay.
I think the only challenge, Amma Pawan, is if we start getting into each one's belief, right? If I believe something very strongly, and let's say Amma, you believe something strongly, Gautam, etc. So we all believe. Beliefs cannot be dialogued.
Yeah, but belief is the end of truth, and belief is the death of intelligence also.
No, it's fine. What I'm trying to say is, if we find ourselves in our weekly discussions that there is a clash of beliefs, then I think there's no dialogue. That's all I'm saying. So I think maybe Pawan, I can move on. No?
Let's move on. Otherwise, we are digressing. But I think one big moral of the story is, if you get Amma and Gautam to speak in the beginning of the conversation, usually they are in the end of the conversation, then the Diwali is celebrated early on Mata. The crackers start bursting up front rather than the end of the conversation. Okay, so let's keep moving on. Jay Baba, Ravi Mai, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah. See, these are very important chapters, even though it is written for the World War II. It applies to any chaos that has been happening forever. No? See, basically, human being is selfish. That is, he's totally under the influence of being selfish. And there is a reason. There is a spiritual reason. The spiritual reason is the consciousness is focused completely on the sanskaras only. Sanskaras are nothing but my own mind. My consciousness is focused on my sanskaras. And there is a purpose for that. Okay? And because of that, man has no other choice than to be selfish. Okay? That is the spiritual reason for that. We cannot find fault with that. That's how human beings are. That is how, even though we all become Baba lovers, we are also like that. Because the purpose of that consciousness is to evolve. That is the main purpose. But what happens is, for any good thing that happens, also there is, you have to pay in some other way. Okay? And how we use our tools, the tools what we have is eye consciousness, mind, intellect, some of these, right? We all know, we use our intellect and all those things. But how we use it is makes a big difference. And we all have pleasures and suffering. Nobody wants to go towards suffering. We want to go for pleasures. Okay, anything we want to do in our daily life, we want to go for the pleasures. And what happens? There is always, you always have to pay through different way of this searching for happiness. And what happens over a large period of time, when many people are doing this, some other negative things are accumulated. When we are all going for happiness, some other part that needs to be balanced, because the whole universe is based upon the balance. So what happens is, to maintain that balance, all these like wars and all this Spanish flu or coronavirus, that happens. But we don't know that. What, for example, a patient might come and say, నాకు ఇక్కడ కడుపు నొప్పి వస్తుందండి, అండ్ ఒక నెల నుంచి అప్పుడప్పుడు జ్వరం వస్తుందండి అంటాడు. అండ్ మామూలుగా, ఇఫ్ వీ డోంట్ హ్యావ్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్, జ్వరం వస్తే ఏముంది, టేక్ సమ్ టైలనాల్ ఆర్ పారాసెటమాల్, జ్వరం తగ్గిపోద్ది. కడుపు నొప్పి ఏముంది, దానికి వేరే మందు వేసుకుంటే తగ్గిపోద్ది, అలా చెప్తారనమాట. అదే, if you go to the doctor will start thinking, why is he getting pain, why is he getting fever, they must be connected, and he goes through all these tests and all, then he determines the diagnosis. And that knowledge, a common man doesn't have it. So just like that, the other part what we are creating while we are pursuing the enjoyment and the pleasurable part, that we do not know. That has to be balanced. So the world always takes a balance, and this is where the God personalities whoever is in charge of taking that path, they will come in. We don't know that. There are 5 perfect masters all the time, Baba said, and they have a lot of power than an individual person. They don't have anything to do with their own pleasure. Their job is only to take care of this world and the suffering to less. And they are the one who are allowing all our whatever the mistakes we are doing, like for Second World War, they let it go for 5 years because Meher Baba said it is necessity. Baba said, why is it necessity? It doesn't make sense. If we don't love Baba, we think, oh my God, he thinks it's necessity. What is this? It's nonsense. Okay, if we love Baba, there is a need. The need is to have a balance. So 9/11 happened, this pandemic happened, and there is a reason why Trump is there. We think he's an idiot and we talk without knowledge, but there is a reason why he is there. There is a reason why, in all possibility, we should not take out the Baba's idea. He may be in the 6th plane. We don't know that. He is doing perfect action, and because of the action, there is chaos created. See, one example I'll tell you, and I don't want to go into the political aspect. I just want to stick on to the spiritual aspect. He is the one who brought up this racism. How many presidents are there, and how many all these years the racism has been there in there, but it's all covered. But he is the person who acted to be a racist, and that caused to bring out, you know. So spiritually, one thing is, Baba said, all these things have to be surfaced. Then only Baba can take out, just like how when you churn the buttermilk, the butter comes up, right? Then only he can take out the butter. Same way, all these things that are hidden inside, those weaknesses have to come up, and then only Baba can do anything. So things are all getting balanced. We don't have to be worried. Only one thing Baba said, when all these things are happening, hold on to my Daman. That is the most important thing. Love me, hold on to my Daman. Those are the few things I want to share. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, I think very well said, actually. I really liked how you explained this. So, Jai Baba. Let's
I think
yes,
Praveen and Sidhu just joined. I think the time difference, yesterday even I didn't realize, but I think the time difference has Praveen, Sidhu join ayaru.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Hey, Kiran, what is time difference? Correct gaane join ayam kada?
Kaadu మనం 8:30 kada starting ఈ రోజు.
Into the meeting, Praveen.
We are already 1 hour into the meeting, but yes.
9:30 kada Monday?
Time మారిపోయింది కదా last weekend.
I think WhatsApp లో పంపించాను.
Ravi పంపించారు. Even Sidhu, same thing. Sidhu Bhargavi has also joined.
Another problem.
Jai Baba.
Okay, Jai Baba. Let us do one thing. Sorry, just to kind of. Yes, go ahead.
One more idea. See, along with the selfishness problem, if we don't keep up with the world, we will be in trouble. Please, everybody else, mute. Praveen, can you mute? Yeah. See, I said that to start with, selfishness is the problem. Another problem is if we don't keep up with the world, there's also adds to the problem. Okay. For example, daylight saving time happened like 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago. If we now think it's there same way, that's also a problem. Jai Baba.
Okay. Okay, so just for the benefit, very quick benefit of for Praveen and for Bhargavi and Sidhu, maybe Kiran, can you just give a sorry, I'm making you repeat. 2 minutes, can you give a quick what is the topic and give a quick summary so that Praveen and Bhargavi Sidhu can just get a
Right.
bit of
Sure.
a quick summary, Kiran.
So today we spoke about I read Discourses, Volume 3, Chapter 2. The topic was called The Travail of the New World Order, and essentially that it's quite, actually, I can put the text in the side later. Y'all can read while the others give their commentary. It talks about Baba talks about. It's set in 1941-42 is when he wrote it, but it is very pertinent to the times. Basically, Baba says there's a world storm in which there is a lot of conflict that is taking place, that has arisen out of human greed, selfishness, and the pursuit of materialism, that has led to sort of a decay of humanity in a way that has led to wars, right? And that was the time when the World War II was going on. What Baba also said, that man will become sick of this greed and hate and the suffering, but that suffering will lead to a greater understanding, and that understanding will affirm the truth, the spiritual truth, and lead man to a more to a better place, which will be on the foundation of love and spirituality. And to enlighten and awaken that, there will be a God man who will make that happen. That, of course, is the avatar. And so Baba basically finally says, have hope, because he has come to help awaken, to get humans out of that, or that lowly state. Highly summarized version. I'll cut and paste the thing in the discussion part. Okay. I don't know if the summary matched the previous summary, but I.
If I ask Kiran, he's giving different points, but that's
different summary.
No, I'm just joking.
Hey, Kiran indaka. Yeah.
Gautami, wait, I'm
It's
going
okay.
to give you your turn again.
Okay.
Just
Okay, that's okay.
Do you have a clarification, Gautami, or comment?
No, nothing else. Indaka Kiran was making a point. దాని గురించి అయిపోయింది Kiran point. అందుకే అడిగాను. అందుకే వచ్చా. Okay, we can talk it out later.
Okay. The point I was wanting to make is basically humans. We are human beings, kada. We are selfish, like Mai said, but we are also interdependent. So when we find out that our selfishness is serving us less than our interdependence, that switch will happen.
But అది ఎప్పుడు తెలుస్తుంది Kiran? అది when will we know?
You realize it through the pain you've gone through it. You'll realize it after the fact. So we start fighting, okay? Let's say we start punching each other. When do we stop? When we realize that the pain I am receiving is more than the pain I can inflict, and that balance cannot be changed. So I will not punching.
My ego will intervene. My ego will intervene. So I'll keep on pressing my point. Argue అవుతున్నప్పుడు సరే why did second world war why did it turn as a turning point? ఎందుకంటే in the previous wars there were much more millions of deaths in the previous wars. Like for example, crusades, holy crusade wars, ఇవన్నిట్లో the number of deaths were more than the second world war అన్నమాట. So but things didn't change at those wars. Things changed only after the second world war. So what I mean is economy plays a larger role than human consciousness.
All wars are some sort of economic wars.
Okay. So, sorry. I'm going to intervene now.
That's okay.
We'll do a circle first, and then we can come back to further discussion from you. Okay. Let's move over to Chantimai. Chantimai, your feedback and thoughts, Mike.
Chanchina unnara?
Jai Baba. The Second World War time lo discourses రాశారు కదా, మన బాబా డిక్టేట్ చేశారు. సెకండ్ వరల్డ్ వార్ ఏంటంటే మ్యాన్ మేడ్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ ఈగో అండ్ సెల్ఫ్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ and lots of death and destruction. and economic disaster. Same the situation is different, but there is heavy loss of human life and economic disaster all over the world. But there is a lot of suffering, and fear of death. And when there is such a huge degree of suffering, naturally it leads to increase the spiritual growth also, spiritual growth. And definitely this is something very very confusing and something very different. And this present situation, we don't know where it will end. And so much ikkada Indialone chaala there is so much of there are so many deaths and which are not reported. Naturally fear of death. ఇప్పుడు మా డాక్టర్స్ లోనే చాలా మంది తెలిసిన మన సర్కిల్లో ఉన్న మా సర్కిల్ డాక్టర్స్ తెలిసిన వాళ్ళు కూడా కొంతమంది చనిపోవడం జరిగింది. ఇప్పుడు ఏంటంటే అంతా ఒక అన్సర్టనిటీ ఈస్ ప్రివేలింగ్. ఫియర్ ఆఫ్ డెత్ ఒకటి బాగా ఇది ఎప్పుడైతే ఫియర్ ఆఫ్ డెత్ వస్తే న్యాచురల్గా పీపుల్ రిసార్ట్ టు spiritual and religiousness and also spirituality. But this is all God. This is all God-made misery. But there will be, I think, light at the end of this suffering, and there will be definitely some great economic growth and also spiritual advancement. Thank you, Jai Baba.
Chanti Bhai, Jai Baba. Prabhakar Mai, do you have any views or your views, Mai? Prabhakar Mai.
అందరూ పెట్టినాను బాగానే ఉంది.
Okay. Tanuja is there up? She exited up. Tanuja is not there, kada? Okay, Tanu is not there. Okay, maybe I will just spend just 2 minutes. I'll give my views and then we can do another circle. We have some time and maybe we can ask Sidhu, Bhargavi and Praveen if there's any questions they may have. I'll just finish my point of view. It was very interesting when just a while ago the topic came, Kiran and Gautam, you were talking and I'm forgetting the words you used about ego and I'm forgetting the word. Kiran, are you able to recollect what was the conversation between you and Gautam just now, 2 minutes ago or 3 minutes ago, before Chantimai spoke? Are you able to remember, recall about ego and the selflessness? Something you had made a comment.
I said about selfishness and interdependence.
Correct. That's the perfect thing, Anmata. When you were mentioning that, I was just thinking about our COVID situation. And if you really think about it, let's take one example, and that's wearing masks. Okay. Now, there were different versions of the wearing the mask. Initially in Singapore, I'm sorry, I'll quickly bring it back to the topic. I'm not diverting. I'm getting to the topic itself. Okay. Initially, we were told wear a mask if you are ill. Okay. If you are feeling ill, you wear a mask. Okay. And then later it transitioned to please wear a mask. Okay. The reality is, if I do not wear a mask, it might be viewed as I'm being inconsiderate to somebody else. But the reality is I'm also exposing myself that much more to the problem. So you see the interdependence of this particular situation. I was just thinking about it. The unity, what COVID has brought up is a unity of the problem that everybody is facing, in a way. If all of us come together to identify this particular problem and say that all 10 of us in my colony have to wear a mask to be able to sort out this problem together, that is where that dependency and the unity comes in. So I was just reminded of that particular point when you were talking about that. Coming back to the topic itself, Kiran, first of all, I think it's a very relevant topic, and I think it's very relevant. For me, the main insight I got out of the discussion and what you presented is, to me, at a very simplistic level, one big insight is when we have a suffering, it's not necessarily a bad thing. That was my main takeaway, quite frankly. If you have to just simplify this whole thing, when we undergo suffering in our lives, right? Of course, this whole thing was in the context of World War II, but then we all have our World War Is and World War IIs in our lives, right? On a regular basis, on an ongoing basis, either with ourselves or with our ecosystem. And I think the big insight to me was that the suffering in itself is not a bad thing. And in that suffering lies a solution that comes up at some point in time, all right, through that whole experience. So that was a very big, for me at least, that was a very big takeaway from this particular discussion. A second very interesting takeaway is the whole thing. When I used to always have this thing. Baba used to, in different literatures and speeches I've heard, Meher Baba saying that I've come to make a big transformation. When this life of mine will shift the world to a different consciousness. Those kind of different claims, And I used to keep thinking, is it really the case? Has it really happened? I don't think so. Something like that in my mind. My brain used to say. But that graph that you showed also is a very interesting, when you really bring it into perspective, it gives perspective that maybe the deaths have reduced. It's just the emphasis. Everything is so much under the microscope, right? Because of technology, the social media, television, all this. We feel the intensity is more, but compared to the past, probably a lot of reduction has happened. And we don't ourselves realize, but maybe there is a progress in overall consciousness that we are all going through relative to a previous consciousness. So anyways, so those were my two key points or my key takeaways out of this. I will, Jay Baba. Praveen, even a comments tonight.
So Pawan, I'll just make one point on what you said. I think firstly, you made a good point. I think the emphasis of a lot of our discussion so far has been on one aspect of it, but you highlighted the other aspects Amma also mentioned, right? And Ravnaya also, which is when you go through labor, when you go through suffering, when you go through a travail, you actually come out better on the other side. It's so I think that's an important point of this whole thing. Yes,
absolutely. There is another. I can't remember which book or which context, but I think either Baba or some Mandali member, I think, was explaining about how, when you clean up a room, right? Initially, when the room cleansing is happening, all the dust that is settled, right, for ages, for months. When you enter the room, it's okay because the dust is all settled in the corner. When you start cleaning up the room, the dust comes out in the room. So it's a lot of discomfort during the cleansing process. But at the end of the day, you have a clean room, right? So that's another analogy of the whole thing. Okay. Let me move over to first. I know Praveen and I don't know, is it Bhargavi or Sidhu or both Bhargavi and Sidhu on the other side there from Dallas? I know it's very, very, you guys came quite late. Kani, any clarifications you may have for Kiran? Praveen? Any clarity or any questions maybe or any comments? Praveen?
Pawan, I'm just reading through some material Kiran has put in this chat here. So one thing that is very interesting is, one second here, I'm reading through that here. Very, 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 very nice. I was like, wow, this is very. So basically, I think Baba is saying that you need to understand your problems in a constructive way, without hate or rancor. That is a very, very, very powerful statement. I think that is something that was, chala bound. I think that is what everyone should do. Is understand what the problems. I think when hate and rancor comes in, our ability to understand the problem just gets away, right? And then we'll just latch on to that hate and the rhetoric and rancor. Rancor అంటే నాకు అసలు అర్థం కాలేదు. I just went and looked at the meaning. But a very very nice statement. అంతవరకు చదివాను. So I don't have any other comments.
What is the meaning of rancor, Praveen?